If you haven't been training, you're feeling a bit stiff, that's the killer. When you figure out you're paddling into this giant bomb and then you got the split hands, you can pop up so much quicker. You really do want to get your body in the ultimate condition you can possibly be in. Get the biggest barrel you can get and come home safe. We're in this one spot. One of the guys out there, he kept digging the rail or he couldn't make the drop, and I was like, hey Josh, get on the boat, go grab my 6'5" big horse and get out here. He goes and grabs it. He comes, turns on this bomb and just gets the barrel of his life. The most important thing in surfing that everyone overlooks is your paddle.
Do you struggle with your paddle power? Well, I can go months without surfing and roll to pumping waves and surf 3-hour sessions multiple times a day, day after day after day, by using the Basis Paddle Trainer. It was a total game changer for me, and it can be for you too. These things actually work, unlike elastic resistance bands. You can train your paddling anytime, anywhere, so you can catch more waves and have more fun. Just 10 to 20 minutes a couple times a week, and you're gonna be in insane paddle shape, right? So remember, the key progression is more waves, and the key to more waves is more paddle power. Check it out at surfbasis.com. You're gonna be stoked.
All right, welcome to the Basis Surf Podcast. Very excited because today we got Tai Buddha. He's a pro surfer of Maori descent, spent his formative years surfing between Australia and Bali. He's an entrepreneur, established famous institutions such as the Single Fin in Uluwatu, gets the craziest shots in the tube, like insane point of view views where it's like you're getting tubed with him, and he's pretty much the master of Indo strike mission. So the purpose of today's podcast is to figure out how to dial in your strike missions, get prepared, make sure you got the right equipment, and then how to perform when you're on one of these strike missions. So figured we'd talk to the master of all this. So thanks for joining, Tai.
Pressure's on. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No, well, I mean, it's interesting because I feel like it's such an interesting space. And I feel like this is something everybody froths out about, right? Like, the idea of like tracking a swell, booking a trip, and then getting ready for it. Like, why don't we just kind of go through that whole process? Like, what goes through, why don't we start from the beginning? Like, you're sitting in your spot, you're sitting at home, and then you see like a purple blob pop up, and then like what goes through your mind? What's the beginning of your process as you're starting to think through things?
First of all, it never gets old. It never gets old at all. Yeah, it's just one of those things. I think you trial and error, the curiosity inside you. There's surface. We all have it. I think there's no one's more than another. I think just if people have got the ability or the means to be able to go and do it, but it never gets old. I basically when I started living in Indo full time. Like, my mum moved over there when I was a young kid and stuff, and I used to go and surf and party and hang. But when I really uprooted and went there full time, I made a conscious decision that I'd drive my calendar, and I wasn't really like too work heavy back then. I was just kind of floating about doing little bits and pieces, but I made sure and I made a promise to myself that I drove my calendar, and if work popped up, everything would revolve around the swell. And so, back then, this is like gone, 20 plus years ago, you couldn't see too far ahead. Now you got, almost 3 weeks or two weeks solid. So, have a good look, see what's going on with this well, and go, okay, cool. These few days here, we'll go get some mahi done, some work done or something like that. So, but now you've got a long range forecast, and, just going and checking places out over the years and seeing, obviously, the tides and the swell direction and the winds and all that kind of stuff, and then the variables. And so you've got that little black book that everybody has mentally ingrained into your head, and you just check the numbers, and it's a game of probables, and you're sitting there and wherever you are at home. I mean, I check the swell forecast a couple times a day, every day. It's like, it's like one of those things, I think us surfers do that. And yeah, when you see those big purple blobs, you start getting that feeling inside your stomach, and you're like, oh my God, come on, please hold, please hang in there, please stick around. And then you just start tracking it, and you just start okay, where's this thing going? Let's look at the tides. Okay, and then it's just a process of elimination. You're
Mhm.
like, where's good on this swell direction's usually the first thing. Swell direction, boom. Okay, let's check the winds. Are they got strong trades, or are they light and fluffy, or are they wet season winds? Okay, what are the tides doing? And then you're just kind of narrowing down all your spots. I usually like to have a couple. Unless I'm just super hell bent on trying to like chase one thing, maybe I'd got a little taste of it. If it's something new, we're still finding new spots now, like believe it or not. I mean, I'm sure there's been people who've passed by, but maybe they haven't surfed it on certain sizes and stuff like that. So, yeah, and you're just literally narrowing it down, and then it's usually like one end of the spectrum to the other. And I'm
Mhm.
sitting there, and my wife still says it to me. She's like, "Oh my God, here we go again. Not this." Because I'm like, "Babe, what do you think?" She's like, "Why the hell are you asking me?"
He's like, I don't
So
know anything about
yeah,
this here.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like, am I going up, that way or that way? And you got to
Yeah.
make a call at the end of the day. I think the older I get to, the less I care if I don't score. Like sometimes we're putting a lot into it. Guys are flying over from all over the world. The phone's always blowing hot with the guys who chase swells all around the world. There's a community of these,
Right.
dudes. You got the, yeah, you know who they are. And everyone's just hunting, and it's just hunting season, especially Indo through that sort of June, July, August to October. It's kind of like Indo's time. And yeah, man, it's still so fun. I still love it. I still just love a good adventure. I just
Yeah.
love I just love rolling up somewhere. Even if I've been there before, I just love that the thrill of the chase. I think
Mm.
that's what really keeps it going. And then packing the quiver, and then like going, shit, should I bring these boards? I swear it's the most mind-bending, confusing thing. You're like, oh, what if we go here and there? And so,
Yeah. Wow.
yeah, and you just learn to, nowadays in Indo, I know most of all the main spots I like surfing, and I've got some boards like stashed there, and so it just helps out a little bit. And you got what you want to chase too. I mean, I'm more about the uncrowded stuff now. I just want to get out there, and sometimes I'll take a friend or two, whoever can keep it zipped, and we sit out
Yeah.
there, and I'm like, how good's this? Like, who's doing this? No one's doing this. We're sitting around, and there's no one in sight, and we're
Wow.
trading off perfect barrels. And
Oh
yeah,
my God.
just when you get that, it's just, it's that you want some more.
Yeah, it's an addiction. How to,
It's an
yeah.
addiction, man.
Wow.
That's what I said to someone. I'm like, I have my hospitality. There's a couple of wayward sort of dudes in the team, and they get they're addicts, on the booze,
Yeah.
and I sit them down. I'm like, hey man, I'm just like you. I'm exactly like you. I'm addicted too, but I'm addicted to that chase. So steer
Yeah.
off the bottle, throw that shit away, and find something that,
Right.
that
Right.
gets your addiction served. Whether it's jujitsu, you know how guys are getting into
Right. Right.
jujitsu now, and they're just
Yeah.
like so hooked on it, and whatever
Right.
it is. But there's a healthy way, and
Right.
so for me, that's surf. Travel and strike and adventure, and sometimes I got a cast, like last year Italo's ringing me, or it's the Billabong team or someone. I'm like, fuck, pressure's on a little bit. I don't want to kook it. I want to make sure my friends score, because like
I,
that. So yeah, man,
I
it's
highly
it's
doubt
really
that.
fun.
Yeah. Well, let's drill into some of those things because, yeah, I mean, that whole process sounds so insane and so fun. Like,
Yeah,
you said you had this little black book in your head. Maybe you even have it written down. Like, I mean, it must be like trial and error, especially if you're
yeah,
trying new spots and you're like, I don't know if this swell direction is going to work. I don't know if, exactly. And at this size, like how often do you like make a prediction, you go to a spot and it just like get completely skunked,
yeah.
or,
Instagram never sees those ones.
right. Yeah. Like what
You won't ever
percentage of
see.
the, yeah. Right.
Not too much, man. I mean, I would say
Yeah.
that the 80-20 kind of rule. But
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
one of my best friends, he passed away, Makala Jones, we used to
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
that's what we just lived for. We were just like
Right.
And the good thing that I used to love going on those missions with MJ was like sometimes you gotta sacrifice a swell at a shore thing to go and try something new because
Right.
you see the big blob moving through the Indian Ocean, it's gonna light up everywhere, and like, are you willing? You know that place is gonna be absolutely cooking, but how many times do we need to score it? Like we've scored it a bunch of times. Like
Right.
let's go try this one. And sure, you're gonna come up. Sometimes you're gonna come up and it's not
Yeah.
there. But like you learn about the spot pretty quickly. I mean, I've had so many funny stories where guys have tried to tell me, "Oh, we've surfed this spot before, yeah, and it's high tide and da da da," and we roll up there and I'm sitting in the water at low tide at this other little wave, watching it going, fuck, it looks pretty good right now on low tide. And then, okay, we'll wait for the tide
Mm.
to come and we'll paddle over, and we paddle over and it stops breaking on high tide. I went, all right, well, that guy's never been here
Mm.
before.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So, or that guy's never surfed it. Maybe he watched it from afar and thought it was too gnarly. But
Mm.
yeah, you've got to be willing to risk it for the biscuit, and
Right. Right.
and I
Right.
think that goes with anything in life, man, in business or whatever. Like if you want those big wins, especially if it's for a spot like an unknown spot, it's different if you're trying to figure out stuff that's been done before and no one's sharing the details. But if it's for this unknown spot, yeah, you've got to just go, who cares? I'm good with missing out on a couple swells, but I want to
Yeah.
go see if this thing is how good this thing can be. And it just keeps the addiction rolling.
I mean, I can't even imagine. I mean, I remember reading Jerry Lopez's book, like him surfing, discovering Uluwatu for the first time.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah. G-Land.
yeah, and,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, dude, that must be the sickest thing ever to like go explore this new wave. But you're still doing it. That's what's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, I would say every couple of years we like go. And then, the easiest telltale is to kind of go into the village and chat with them, and because you're never alone in Indo. There's always you could be on this remote island in the middle of nowhere, and you're sitting there, and then doink, some dude's popping out of the bush. You're like, "Hey, bro, where'd you come from?"
Yeah.
And
Wow.
you get to know a place pretty well and talk to the locals and stuff like that. So, I speak fluent Indonesian, and hey, has anybody you ever seen anybody out here? No, never. What about our boats? Any boats come through? Yeah, I see some boats, but they go over that place. But I never see any people here. And you're like, maybe no one has hit this place before. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
there's a handful of crew that have done the rounds in Indo for a long, long, long time. The Dorises and the Jim Banks and all these old school guys that, I love catching up with those guys. I'm like, hey Jim, you ever been around there? He's like, ah, yeah. And we're at a party or something, whispering to each other, just because, there's a select few that that they can. We're on the
Right.
same program,
Right. Right. Right.
so
Right.
it's a core little. Yeah, I would just say it's super core because, like, especially from maybe my perception, people might look and go, "Oh, he's got all these venues in Bali and blah blah. He must make heaps of money." But like, okay, come on an adventure with me and see where we sleep and see what the food we eat, and we're still like
Right. Right.
catching
Right. Right.
fish and eating chicken and rice or whatever it is. So I love
Yeah.
that ability to be able to kind of just have those two worlds and go back to the roots and go back to the basics and get out
That's
there and
sick.
have an adventure, man. It's super fun, especially in the modern day world where
Right.
you're in New York and I'm in Burley Heads right now talking to each other.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
exactly. No, I mean that, when you're like roughing it, that's what makes it feel like an adventure when you're just getting back to
yeah,
the basics,
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And the preparation that goes into when you go into those new spots too, like from a safety perspective and traveling,
Right.
making sure you got your first aid kits and making sure the dudes you're with, I've taken some young Balinese groms with me on some trips. And one young kid, I was like, hey, this is going to probably be the biggest waves you've ever seen in your life. It's going to be super heavy. And I don't tell him this till we get on the plane. So there's no
Yeah.
backing down. He's like, "Where we going?" I'm like, "Just get to the airport, brother. No questions." And he gets to the
Yeah.
airport. "Where we going?" I'm like, don't ask. And we're sitting on the plane. I'm like, all right, come here. And I'm
You make
like,
him wear a blindfold
yeah, 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 yeah.
on the plane so he can't even tell where he is.
Yeah, and people who've been on a strike, that's usually how it goes. They're like, "Where are we going?" I'm like, "Ah,
Right.
it doesn't matter." So yeah, no, and I say to him, I'm like, "Hey, look, this is probably going to be the biggest waves you've seen or surfed, or the heaviest. There's more than likely, bro, it's just going to be you and me and no one else out there. So I'm going to run through some safety stuff because if I get hurt
Yeah.
or you get hurt, we're a long way from help. And this is the process. If something happens, this is
Right.
where we go in on the land. This is how you got to go, da 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 da. And then you can see the look in their eye. They're like, holy shit, what did I sign myself up for here? And I think
Right.
that those little parts of it as well as part of the adventure, and like,
Oh, for sure.
packing the vest, packing the floaty vest on there, and the first aid kits in there, and then bringing filling up your Yeti bottle with your electrolytes, and just being super 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 prepared. I always learnt that the 6 P's, precise preparation prevents piss poor performance, and you just want to
Uh-huh.
have enough fins, enough wax. You don't because there ain't no surf shop or there ain't no like cafe down the road at 90% of these places to go get some of the stuff you might need. So
Right.
you
Right.
got to
Right.
you got to be dialed in and locked in, but at the same time, you got to move fast. So you got to pack light. So I
Yeah.
I look at like the special forces, and I'm like, well, we're kind of like that of surf. We pack
Right.
nice and light. We keep it super tight. We don't talk. We're ready for all kinds of conditions, and
Yeah.
then we get out there, and 9 times out of 10 we score or we complete the mission. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's super fun,
All right.
man.
So what do you let's get into it. So like let's get into like what are the
I
key
just
things
said we
to
couldn't
pack?
talk about it. No.
But everybody's listening on this podcast. They're
Yeah.
part of the secret strike force too.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
we're letting them in
yeah.
on the secrets.
Mhm.
What are some of the key things that they need to make sure to bring? And then let's also get an equipment, right? Because you're like tracking the swell. You're like, all right, these are going to be proper waves. Well, you got to figure out what do you got to bring, and then like what kind of boards you're going to bring as well. Like so let's go through that list. Like what do you bring?
Yeah.
What do you bring on a strike mission?
Yeah, I think like my normal from my equipment side, I usually travel pretty light. I'll have like a duffel bag and a backpack. I've got, um your fins, more than enough sets, heaps of wax, and then I've got like a first aid kit, enough to stop bleeding mainly. That's the main thing. Like we're not getting to, you know, all the cosmetic stuff, we can do that when we get back, but just emergency side of things in there.
Yep.
Um, then we might have a few like energy bars and electrolytes and all that kind of stuff. And all that stuff's really small and really compact.
Yep.
And then you've got your travel gear. And literally, man, you might have a long pair of pants and a long sleeve shirt to keep mosquitoes and all that kind of stuff off you, or the sun. You got your boardies, your hooded rashi, and a floaty vest, and you're usually pretty good to go. You know what I mean? You might have a
Yeah.
change, a dry shorts and a dry t-shirt, and your sunnies, and you're good to go. And then obviously I like taking all my GoPro stuff now. I mean, I never really was that into it. Makala was always trying to teach me. He's like, hey man, take this, da 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 da. I see why he got so hooked on it because you don't need to bring anyone. Like you can be out there
Mm,
and
mm.
you're a one man band. And I know some people are like, oh, you love taking photos of yourself. And I'm like, well, I love to get some content. Obviously, that's the game we play when we surf for brands and stuff like that. But I don't have to bring a photographer that might just yap about where we are. I got I
I got it.
I got it dialed. That's my main motivation of it all. And then once
Right,
I
right,
started
right, right.
learning how to do it better, I like the art of it because you're like, okay,
Yeah.
what's my challenge on it all? So then
Right.
that's the camera stuff. And then moving into the boards, you kind of dictated to where you're going to go and what you can take. If I'm going on a boat trip, I'll take heaps of boards because I'm on a boat, it doesn't matter. But if I'm going to some island and I've got to go on a small, tiny plane, and you can only take a maximum of three boards. Then you know, so you're dictated around where you're going. And I think that's the main thing that I like to like pick off. I'm mainly chasing tubes and stuff these days. So barrel boards, and I've been working on this board with JS. We released it last year, and it's called the Big Horse. It's been going super well, and it's designed for that. It's like your travel board. It still turns, but it's really dialed in for tubes, and I kind of wanted to have that, so you didn't need a 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". So it's like you can take a 2 6'3s and a 6'6" if you want to take three boards, or you know what I mean. So it really depends. It really depends on where you're going when it comes to the board side of things. If I'm going on a standard boat trip though, or I'm going to go on a little strike, I'll tend to take a fun board and then a bunch of tube boards, and that's kind of like
Yeah.
that's the dial in there. But yeah, you
Well,
know what it's like.
let's talk about the big horse that you developed. Like what makes it special? What makes it different from, other two boards that might be out there, Like how would you describe it? Like what was the process like developing with JS?
Yeah, it was awesome, man. I mean, I was riding for another brand, and I just never felt like I could get the paddle power, and I knew exactly what I wanted, but it's just really hard to kind of get there and stuff. JS wanted to give me a bunch of boards to try, and I was like, sure, why not? Let's try them out. Always was a fan, and on being on the coast when I was a young kid, it was like they were the boards to ride. And I tried a full batch, and he gave me a whole bunch of different ones. It wasn't until I went on a trip with Ramsey Bookham, and he had this one board, and I picked this thing up, and I was like, wow, what is this? And it had this logo, like a logo on it. And he's like, I don't know, it's this board Jace has been sort of playing around with a while ago. So the story goes, McCool wanted something thicker but narrower for pipe, and then Cowley Vast wanted something with some more paddle power, some more thickness in there. And so a bunch of these really good surfers, like really good heavy tube, heavy barreling wave, locals at these spots, all wanted these kind of boards. And Ramsey also was like, had one, and I hit Jace, and I was like, the board that I've been trying to work with you on? I go, this has got the bones of that. Like this is the outline that I like. And he goes, all right, well, why don't we try to develop it on this? So there was a lot of legwork already done by some of the best barrel riders around, and we just basically put a little bit more foam, through it. So if you pick one up, it's a lot of shapers and surfers say, oh, I need the foam to come up to my chest. Well, I wanted it to come up to the top of the nose, and and I wanted that foam all the way through, because the best friend you can have in slabby barrels is your paddle power. But you don't want to compromise that with having big, thick, boaty rails, because you need to like knife in and bite in. So that's usually where a lot of shapers I've found from the boards I've tried, getting that balance. You go, I need more thickness. And so they either go wide or they go thick. And then you get these like too much width, you're catching, too thick, you're not biting in. And so it was really this perfect blend. It was a nice, beautiful, sexy outline, and it had this foam. And if you pick one up, it's like got a dome deck on it. And I wanted that paddle power, but pulled it down. I mean, your podcasts, you talk about paddle power, and that's one of your main things. I'll never forget. I was surfing owls down in Sydney, and one of my best friends is Marky Matthews. I would consider Mark and Kobe like the original slab lords of the world. Like those guys really like put that crazy shit on the map. And I'm sitting out there with Marky Matthews, and we're talking about it, and he's like, the most important thing in surfing that everyone overlooks is your paddle. It's the most important. You even look at like Mick Fanning surfing 2-foot beach break. He's paddling so hard to get that momentum in. But when you're surfing those waves of consequence, it's all in the paddle. So I used to just always flick things back to Mark. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And he would just be like, you got to work on your paddling. First of all, you got to lose some weight. You got to paddle faster. and,
Yeah.
and then, and make sure you got that board. So,
Right.
I think having that equipment there, what it does, man, it just eliminates any second guessing or second thoughts you've got in your head. Because, especially with some of the waves that we chase and some of the waves I go to, there's no one around. And so like this big freaking 12 footers rolling out of nowhere, and you're paddling, and the last thing you want to think about is like, fuck, I hope I get into this thing. Oh, because you just don't want to be falling out of the sky, getting blasted, and then maybe getting
Right.
hurt, and then there's no one around to help you. So you just want to eliminate that out of your head. And I swear to God, like once I started working on these boards with Jace and we started really dialing them in, that thought just left. And it's the
Mm,
best feeling in heavy or consequential waves you can have when you just know your equipment is A1.
right.
There's
Right.
nothing
Right.
like it, you know, because when you know
Yeah.
your equipment might give on you, it is the worst feeling because you're like, that's all you're thinking about, and you're kind of like wrestling it, and it almost works against you. But to know your board is going to get you in there, it's going to bite, it's going to drive in the barrel. You just got to paddle hard and hold on, really, make the
Right.
drop.
Right. Right.
so,
For sure.
so yeah, that's what the big horse came about. It was really, really, really fun to work with Jace. I think Jace he's one of the, I don't know, man. Like I know a lot of shapers, and I really love all the shapers and stuff. But he's a special human, Jace. He's got so much time. You know, you look at his team. Everyone's been with him for so long. You know, we do all these days. You know, hanging out with all the team guys and stuff, and he's easy. He still is the guy. If you want a new board and you're a team rider, you message him directly. You don't even go through the team
Yeah.
manager or anyone. You message him directly, and he's building your
Mm,
quivers. And that guy's working around the clock. So it was just a really, really nice feeling to be able to work that close with like a world class shaper in dialing in something that's like you know, chasing big blue barrels is the most important thing in surfing for me. And
for
then I just
sure.
had it, and I went, "Is this just me? Is this just me? This board's going. I'm try this, try this, try this." And my mates were like, "Whoa!" You know, even my friends that are not pro surfers, and they just you know they just love a good little barrel here and there. They were just like, "Holy shit, man! This is the board!" And like all my buddies started ordering. Pretty much, you go through Indo and all the main dudes at all the main spots, they're all on big horses now, which is sick to
Mm,
see.
that's
Yeah,
sick.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
I get messages from like heaps of underground dudes, like guys down in Sydney, guys in West Isles, and they're like, bro, I surfed a big horse. Wow, unbelievable. It just makes me so happy. It's like, oh, I'm stoked we got to work on something that's helping someone have the wave of their
Right.
life. Yeah.
Right.
It's epic.
That's sick. Yeah, no, you're just spreading that joy, man. You're just
Yeah.
giving everybody barrels because they're on the right board. And I feel like what you're talking about just resonates so much with me, right? You were talking earlier about what was it, the 6 P's, like
Yeah.
preparation. It's all about preparation, right? So you got
Yeah.
to make sure you got the right equipment. You got to make sure you're in paddle shape to catch those waves as well. And then you eliminate that doubt. And that's such a
Yeah.
key thing when you're surfing heavy waves. Like
Yeah.
you're making these split decisions to like
Yeah.
turn and go on some of these waves, and those waves you're going for look so gnarly. Like you don't want any doubt going on in your head, right? Like,
Yeah.
man, it's insane.
I went on a boat
Well,
trip last year, and it was like three swells back to back, and I had to go. Got my filmer that's been with me forever, and I was like, "Come on, bro, let's go!" And I just hit up all the boys in the Mentawais. I know all the boat captains and all the boats. I'm like, "Who's got a spot?" Boom, 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 boom. And these guys were like, "Yeah, I've got one." I'm like, "Who's the crew? Who you got on board?" Bunch of old dudes. I'm like, "Nah, not going there," because you got to be careful who you jump on boats with, because
right, right,
they'll
right.
be like 10 foot waves, and we're out of here, bro. We're going
Yeah,
over
yeah, yeah,
we're
yeah.
going to Burger World.
Right, right.
So
Yeah.
you know, I found a boat. It was full of young guys. They were from a place called Foresters down in New South Wales. They were a tight group of mates. They all had a crack, and I jumped on. Didn't know any of them. I said, "What's up, boys?" Blah blah. Blah. I knew the main boat guys and stuff. And I'll never forget, man. We're surfing out there. We're surfing this one spot. It's kind of like it was a heavy wave. Like you know, it's for Indo. It's like a mini chopes kind of looking thing. And one of the guys out there, he has a good crack. You know, he's not at the top level, but he has a good crack. And he paddled out on this 7-0, and I just watched him. I'm like, he kept digging the rail, or he couldn't make the drop. And I was like, "Hey, Josh, get on the boat, go grab my 6'5" big horse, and get out here." He goes on there. He goes,
Mm,
"You sure?" And I went, 100%. He goes and grabs it, comes out, set come. We'd all been sitting there, and I went, "Josh, go." He comes, turns on this bomb, and just gets the barrel of his life. And he just
Oh
came
my
out, and
God.
I watch it on the footage, and he's just wrestling foam balls and everything. He comes out, he paddle. I'm more excited for him than he is. I was just like, yes. And then he comes back out,
Wow.
and we're just hugging. And then another wave comes. I'm like, go again. And he gets like two of the best waves, and he's just like, they're the
Wow.
best waves of my life, you know? And
Wow.
I was just like, how cool is that? Like deep down inside, I'm like, how cool is that my model
Right.
board just made that dude's like best barrels of his
Well,
life, you know?
wow.
So
What do you think it was? Like the 7.0 is going to have more paddle power, but it
it
just didn't
didn't.
fit in the curve of the wave. It didn't.
It didn't have more paddle power. That's the thing. Like
Wow.
it's a longer
Oh,
board. It's a longer
yeah.
board, and everybody thinks 7.0, but
Right.
yeah, you said it too. Like it's longer, didn't have as much paddle power because it's too long and stretched out. So you still got the ability to sink down, and then making that steep drop. You're exactly right. You're like you're picking. Your nose is hitting in there. So the horse is like condensed. So instead of riding a 7.0, you could ride a 6.3. So
Yeah.
I wanted the feeling of a bigger board when you're paddling, but when you're in the barrel, I want the feeling of a shortboard. So you've got so
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
control and maneuverability, and you can you can move in the barrel. There's nothing worse when you're in a big, if it's a 10-foot barrel and you're on like an 8.0 and you can't do anything. You're just stuck. You got
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
hold your
Yeah. Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
Oh, don't get me wrong, that's a great feeling,
Right.
but you pick your line and that's it. But when you're on a
Right.
horse, you can really move and you can move up high and
Mm.
just with the
Yeah.
concaves of it. So yeah, man, it's honestly, and I'm not just saying it because it's my model, but I've ridden all the barrel boards that are out there and stuff, and just there's night and day. It's like,
Hmm.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
good to
Damn.
have, I gave some to Bruno Santos. He's one of the best barrel riders in the world. He's like, Buddha, this board is amazing. Gave some to Kobe Abadan. He's one of the best barrel riders in the world. So when I get feedback from like legit guys, it just makes me smile. I'm just so
Damn.
stoked.
I need to try one. I need to try one.
Yeah, we'll get you
Damn.
one.
All right. Well, all right. So, okay. So, like, you paddle. All right. This massive bomb comes. You're on the right board.
Yeah.
Okay. You're paddling. But those drops that you're making are so gnarly. What are your tips in terms of making these drops, nailing your pop up? I know a lot of people struggle with their pop up. Like,
Yeah.
what are your tips there?
The best piece of advice I ever got was from Kelly. I went on a trip especially during COVID. He came on heaps of little strikes with me in Indo. We had a lot of fun. But I was just sitting there and I saw his thing on YouTube one time and I really asked him about it. I'm like, hey bro, show me where you're at with a pop up. Because even me, like, I'm I've just done a water fast, so I've dropped heaps of kilos, but I usually set up around 88, 80, 89 kilos. I don't know what that is in pounds, but, um, if you haven't been training, you're feeling a bit stiff, that's the killer when those hips go on you and you start to stiffen up a little bit. But I just asked him, and I think that split hands, I don't know if you've talked about it, I'm sure you have with some of your guys, but that split hands, if you're going right, it's like rainbows and butterflies just appeared on the horizon. When you figure that out, when you figure out like you're paddling into this giant bomb and then you got the split hands, you can pop up so much quicker. Weight
Mm,
forward, hands forward, all the usual stuff that everyone's talking about. But yeah, when your equipment is there for you, I think it takes away a lot of that hesitation. And
yeah.
and then it's just up to you. And then you're like, wow, I'm all the way here. Could be sitting in the office or could be digging holes. Let's go. So then it's back to your
Right. Right.
mindset.
Right.
But yeah, I guess there comes a point where yeah, I don't know. I haven't. Sometimes if I do butcher a really good wave, I'll sit there on repeat and like see what happened exactly. Like I can think of 100 times when I butcher waves, and I'm like, what happened? What happened? Oh, I got
Hmm.
down and and my eyes weren't looking down, or I like my backhand moved and it threw me off balance, and the wave raced off, and I lost. All these tiny little
Hmm.
things. I think back to the preparation side of things. When you're going to go and surf those really, really heavy waves, like you really do want to get your body in the ultimate condition you can possibly be in
Right.
and train for those.
What kind of training do you do?
I came across Pilates 3 years ago. My wife's
Mm.
been doing it for like since I've known it for 15 years, and I tried it a long, long, long time ago, and I was like, yeah, yeah, whatever, I'm not enough hoo-ha. And and I would say out of everything I've done, and I've owned my own functional training gym, surf specific thing as well in Bali and stuff, but I would say out of everything that I've ever done in terms of training, I would say Pilates is probably the best
Hmm.
thing. Yeah.
Really
I would
interesting.
I would say for sure, especially, given, my age and getting older and stuff like that. The combination of stretching and the strength, it just like you feel so much taller. I can surf so much longer and I'm so
Hmm.
much more mobile and agile.
Interesting.
If I had to choose one thing, I would choose
Hmm.
Pilates. Yeah, I would choose
Wow.
Pilates.
Interesting.
I would say my surfing would probably keep my cardio up and, can just do a few push-ups and sit-ups and stuff at home to keep a little bit of body. But if I was to just choose one thing, it'd be Pilates. But if I had to combine it, I would probably do Pilates with a little bit of like weight mobility. That's what I've been doing now is just some mobility work with some light weights. I think as you get older, you need a little bit of that strength there. Um, and yeah, and just try to stay trim. Those pop-ups, the weight is the killer. Yeah.
Right.
For
For
some
sure.
reason, like I got Maori blood, so I was like, yeah, I want to be 100 kilo. I want to be 100 kilo surfer, still ripping. But I got up to like 90, I got up to like 96 or 97 kilos, and it was the worst. It was so, there's nothing good about it.
Yeah. Right. Right.
It's
Right.
so bad. And the number one thing that suffered on that was the pop up.
Mm, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, keeping in good shape. Making sure you get that sleep. I'm big on all the like biohacking and all this stuff with Gary Brecker and Mark Boris and all these guys. Like, I love it. We're just about to have another baby. Baby number three is coming, and I just did an 11-day water fast. This
Damn.
is
That's gnarly.
today's actually day 11. Yeah. Um, it was so good. Like, I wanted to just, I always say I do them every now and then, clean the body, heart, and the mind. But like, I'm down 8 kilos. So
Damn.
yeah,
We're
it's a
ready to
lot.
book an Indo trip. You're ready to book a strike mission, dude. Your pop ups are going to be so quick now. You
Yeah,
know.
exactly. But I just think
Oh
keeping
man.
your body in good shape, you can have all these
Yeah.
little tricks of the trade and stuff like that, but like it's a burpee, you want to be
Yeah.
popping up as quick as you can. So
Right, right, for
yeah,
sure. Well, okay, so we got all that figured out.
yeah,
That's super helpful. I saw this clip of you though. You were surfing on the Golden Child, and it was is interesting because that's like Mateus, who I interviewed, Mateus Hurdy. He's been riding that board a lot too because he's been working on his rail game.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's like a throwback to an old Joe Parkinson board, which is
yeah,
kind of like old school traditional style.
yeah,
And you were doing these just beautiful backside bottom turns and top turns. It just looks super fun.
yeah.
What are your tips on backside bottom turns and top turns?
I love surfing backside. I actually would way rather surf backside than frontside. So
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. I think that down I've never really broken this down before, but that down the line look and then just that, you want to get that low compression. I don't know, I always had those like visions of like I grew up in the early like, you know, 90s and the late 80s is when the surfing kind of came into my life. And so it was like Sons of Fun and Jack McCoy videos on repeat, God bless him. So I just used to remember those big Oki bottom turns and those big
Mm-hmm.
Margot bottom turns. And so backhand surfing has always been a little bit more beautiful to me for some reason.
Hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if you know Mare Lana, but Mare Lana is a local surfer from Uluwatu, and Tom Curran. It's just, I don't know. I just find backside surfing more beautiful than frontside surfing, just personally. Um,
Huh.
so yeah, I guess those big swoopy bottom turns, and then yeah, what do they say? Handlebars and open up and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if I'm thinking about it too much when I'm doing it, but
Right. Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely easier than a frontside turn. Like a
Yeah.
backside
Right.
bottom turn and top turn's a lot easier than a frontside one. A frontside top turn is probably one of the hardest turns to do. like a really
Yeah,
nice,
yeah, for sure.
clean, smooth one. I mean, you're in this
Right,
breakdown
right,
game
right.
more than me,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. I just love a big backside open canvas, like surfing big ulus, and you can have a little bit
Mm,
longer board. I kind of go the opposite
yeah.
when I'm surfing big lefts. I'll go on
Mm,
a longer. I'll get okay. Now it's my time to jump on a 6.6 or a 6.8, and I can really
really
like drive that around. Yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
Interesting. I like that, huh?
yeah, yeah. I feel
Nice.
like I don't know. You can kind of like draw those turns and smooth arcs. I got on a period too, man, where I was riding twin fins for like probably 10 years. It was like early 2000s, and I just didn't even own a shortboard. And I
Well,
don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing, but it was like it's that feeling when part of it was bad because you'd like just want to smash it and you couldn't because you had to kind of do a cut down. but 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 it definitely like you have those nice big smooth drawn out bottom turns and then that big carve down and stuff. And I really liked
Mm,
enjoyed surfing that at Ulus. Like I used to go out there on
yeah.
like this 20 or a quad at big outside corner and just see how small. I used to see how small of a board I could jump on. Like I could get down.
Mm.
Can I ride a 5.9 at like 12 foot? If it was wally enough, you could, because you could
Yeah,
just sit
yeah.
there and hold that rail. So yeah,
Yeah.
I love backside surfing.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Dude, I mean, Uluwatu is such a sick wave. I've surfed it and it's like
yeah.
amazing. Hard to get a wave there sometimes. The crowds are gnarly, but such
Cards
a
and
sick
Ali.
wave.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
beautiful. 2 foot to 20 foot. That thing. It's all got all
Yeah.
different faces. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, I got a couple closing questions for you here.
Yeah, yeah.
So we actually covered a couple of these already, but so how about this one? What is your intention when you go for a surf? Like, what goes through your brain?
Oh, depends what the
Actually, you know
conditions.
what? This is actually really, this kind of circles back to because I'm curious, like, what is your mindset when you're out there on a strike mission and there's these super heavy waves coming at you, and it's like consequence. There's real consequences. You and
Mm,
your buddy, like, what kind of calculations are you doing in your head, or you just block it all out? Like, how do you deal with the fear, which I'm
mm.
sure is relatable no matter what level of surfer you're at?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
you
yeah,
guys,
yeah.
you're doing gnarly stuff, So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll tell you a story. What year are we in? 2025. So it was the end of 23, and Makala had passed away. It was like September, actually. Makala had passed away mid-year, and I hadn't gone on a strike, like a proper one, like a proper real deal one. And it was my first strike to a spot that we would always go to, just him and I. We've been going there for like 15 years, and
man, that must have been heavy.
it was still like no one, it's still to this day no one goes there. And I just remember like a buddy of mine, a photographer, hit me up. He was like, "Ty, I'm doing a book. I'd love to have you in the book." And I was like, "Okay, cool, man. Like, hey, why don't I take you to a spot? I'll take you to a spot that's special to me." And I looked at the forecast. Well, he hit me up because he checked the forecast because I just finished like the single fin classic. So I was like, I wasn't even looking at the swell, and he hit me up and he's like, "What about, what do you think about this swell?" And I was like, "Oh, well, yeah, there'll be waves. It's probably just going to be like a 6 foot, 6 to 8 foot swell. Like it's not going to be anything big, big, but it should be big enough. Like, let's go, let's go. I'll take you to this spot." So we go, we start packing up. He's like, "Where is it?" And I was like, "Don't ask any questions. I'll see you at the airport, and like I'll take care of the tickets and stuff, and I'll see you there." And we got there, and I just started getting like Bali belly, and I was like, "Oh
Oh,
man," and my stomach, what didn't wasn't really bad, but just enough to throw me off. We travel, we get to the spot. Like I pack all my normal gear, and I would never normally go here by myself, but I was like, he's a really good water photographer, and I was like, "Harry, are you gonna swim?" He's like, "Yeah, whatever you think I should do." And I was like, "Yeah, if you swim, it's just you and me." And then I'm sweet. As long as there's someone in the water with me, like it's all good. Like if he's,
yeah.
30 meters down the line or whatever, but like at least we're there for each other. So I was like, "Cool, you swim and I'll surf and it's just you and me. We don't need to bring anyone." He's like, "Yeah, sweet." So we get on the plane and I'm starting to feel off, and then it's a flight and then a long drive to this zone. And on the car ride there, I'm like getting worse, and we stop for food. I'm like, "Fuck, this is not good." And we get to our place, and undo the boards, pack up, set up everything because we got to get up. We got to get up really, really early in the morning. Just to kind of the logistics of everything. I got to get out there and stuff like that. I usually take either my ski or a boat or something. So usually got to wake up around 4 a.m. Anyway, I'm up all night, like literally going to the toilet every freaking 20
Oh my
minutes.
God.
Yeah, I didn't sleep a wink. And we wake up in the morning and he looks at me.
What is your intention when you go for a surf and you're like in these heavy waves and you're just out there by yourself? Like, what goes through your mind?
I would say two things. I'll give you a little story, I guess. It was like a probably one of the closest stories to me that, about all this kind of going on strike missions and stuff. But get the biggest barrel you can get and come home safe. That's probably my two intentions every time I go is like, let's try get the biggest one. But let's get back home to the family because, at the end of
Yeah.
the day, this stuff's just for me. My kids don't get anything out of it. My wife doesn't get anything out of it. It's this, little selfish like fix that we get. But, we all need something. Us humans, we need that little bit of stimulation. So that's it for me. I went on a trip 2025, so 2023, and this particular trip, I guess it was just, I don't know, it's so much emotion in it. MJ had just passed away, and I hadn't been on any strike missions or anything. Like, we were, we were so rattled. Everyone was so rattled, and then a swell popped up, and it would have been really good for this spot that him and I used to always go to. Like, it was all there. It wasn't massive, but it was going to be really, really nice. And I had a photographer named Harrow. He was in town, and he sent me a message. We'd just been hanging out at the Single Fins Classic contest, and he's like, "But I want to do a book, and I'd love to have you in there. And what do you think of this swell?" And I was like, "Oh, this could be cool." Because usually I don't really want to take magazines to this spot, but like this is a book, and Harrow's a bit of a legend, like amongst all the like bigger wave, gnarlier guys. He's like been everywhere and on these crazy missions. He's the full mission photographer if I've ever met one. So I was like, Harrow, I'll take you to this spot. And he's like, where is it? I went, doesn't matter. I'll see you at the airport. Don't ask any questions. So we roll up, and I honestly thought it was probably going to be 6 foot. So I said to Harrow, hey, if you swim, I don't need to bring anyone because this wave's heavy, and I don't really, I've surfed it maybe a couple times by myself, but I don't really like surfing it by myself because it's so far away from anything. And, it's consequential waves. If shit happens and you're by yourself, it's game over. So I said, hey, why don't you swim? Because he's a really good water photographer. I said, why don't you swim and I'll surf. And then I didn't need to bring anybody, bro. It's just you and me. He's like, yeah, sweet, damn. So we had all the stuff, and then we get to the airport, and I just start getting like Bali belly. And I'm like, not full on, but just enough to make it uncomfortable. And this mission's far, you got to get a flight, and then there's a big long drive and blah, blah, windy hills and all that kind of stuff. So we land in the spot, and I'm like, damn, man, this is like, I can tell this is just the start of it. And we're eating, and when you're in Indo on the road, you ain't going to a nice cafe. It's like, how long's that been sitting there for? I'll take one. So anyway, we get a feed, and we're cruising, and I'm like, oh, this is sticking around. And we arrive at the spot, unload, and I like to pack and get everything super organized and planned for the next day because we've got to wake up really early at this spot, like 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's a bit of a hike to get down and do all the logistics. Anyway, I'm getting my stuff ready, and then I'm like, okay, dude, I'm gonna go to bed. And I'm up every freaking 30, 40 minutes going to the toilet. I'm just like, so I wake up at 4 o'clock, and Harrow's looking at me. He goes, dude, you look like you've been partying all night. Are you okay? And I'm not, but let's go. Like, we'll go have a look. The the other thing that was kind of keeping me up too is I'm lying. We're really close to the surf where we stay. I'm lying in bed, and I just hear this, and I'm counting the period, and it's like 1, 2, 3, 17, 18, 19, 20. I'm like, 20 seconds, fuck, really? And I'm like looking, and I'm looking at I'm looking at my forecasting, and because where we are, there's no electricity, so there's no signal, so you got to like screenshot all your last forecast and stuff like that. And I'm looking at it, and it was saying like 18 seconds, and I'm like, 20 seconds. Like, is that? And so I'm like, okay, count again. And I'm like, fucking hell, it sounds big. Like, and so we wake up and he wakes up and, someone who hasn't been there before, it sounds really loud. So he's like, sounds big. And I'm like, yeah, it does, man. I wasn't expecting it. So I took a bunch of boards. I have a little setup where I anchor off. Like, it's a mission. I got to take an anchor out there, and I put these boards out there because, like, if you snap a board out there to go back to the beach and come back, the tide's killed the wave and it's all over.
Yeah.
So get my quiver, and we come down onto the beach where we normally get a little telltale, and I'm looking even on like a 10-foot swell, it's like 2 foot. I'm looking at like solid 4-foot closeouts, and I'm like, holy shit, Harrow. And he's like, what does that mean? I went, it's big, bro. And he's like, really? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, he goes, what does that mean? I went, it might be too big. And he's like, really? And he goes, yeah. I went, okay, well, let's go. And so we go over, get the things ready. And I got my ski there, and I chucked it on the ski, and he goes, what do you think I should do then if it's too big to swim? And should I shoot off the ski? And I was like, maybe if it's that big, if it's what I'm seeing here, because we're in the dark, man. We got our little headlights on. This is what I mean about the Black Ops shit. This is what I just love it. I'm like, So I got the red lights going everywhere, and I'm like, hey, look, if it's that big, it's too much water moving. You're better off shooting on the ski. He goes, let's just make that call now. I went, all right, cool. So he swaps lenses. So he's not swimming. He's on the ski. I'm like, cool. We get out there. It's still pitch black. We drop all that stuff. My board's in there. Boom, boom, boom. And then I start paddling over. And then I'm paddling over, and the sun is just barely coming up. Like, it's still dark, and I paddle over, and I could just feel the energy. And I'm sitting out there, and then this perfect wave comes, like maybe like an 8-footer. I'm like, whoa. And I look at this thing, and I start watching it from behind, and I swing around, and I see the biggest wave I've ever seen break at this spot. And it's like freaking about to barrel. I'm just like, oh my God. And I just get under it. And I'm like, holy shit, it's huge out here, And I'm like,
my God.
And so then I start ping ponging, like, between, because you got to come in on the ledge, and then you don't want to get hit or cleaned up by the surf. I'm ping ponging for like 30 minutes, hadn't caught a wave, and I'm like been up all night with Bali belly, energy zapped, and out here by myself, I'm like, fuck, I don't know if I'm feeling this, And I go back to the ski, and he goes, how you feeling, man? I went, yeah, I don't know if I'm feeling this or not. He's like, all right. He goes, it's pretty heavy. But deep down in me, Harrow's shot with like some of the legit most gnarly guys. So part of me, I'm like, stop being a little pussy, man, right in front of this guy. and I'm like, come on. And so I sit there and I watch it. And I'm like, come on, Buddha, just get back out there. So I paddle back out. The sun's come up, and I'm like dancing around. This one comes, I'm in the spot, and I made the drop, poof, and then pulled up, didn't get barreled, came through, and went straight to the ski. And I went, you know what, man? I just don't have a good feeling. Like, I think I'm done. He's like, all right, no worries. What do you want to do? And there's another spot like a little while away, and I'm like, I might go down there and go and see if someone wants to come, And out of nowhere, this dude paddles out from like the beach, and it's miles away. And I see this arms thrown over, and I was like, what the hell? And I go over, and I was like, hey man, he's like this random Aussie solo warrior dude. He's like, g'day mate, how are you? And I was like, what the hell are you doing here? He's like, I could see you guys from a distance, thought I'd come. I was like, let's go. And I went, put this on, put a safety vest, like one of those Patagonia things, and we paddle out. And just having someone out in that water, it just changed the whole vibe of it, because like I gave him the lowdown. I'm like, hey, don't fall off there, blah 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 blah. This is where you're going. If your board breaks, blah blah blah. And so we're out there, and he got absolutely flogged. He's on the reef, and I'm sitting out there by myself for probably an hour. And then this is probably 10 o'clock. So we got out there at 5, and this is 5 hours into the session, and this giant one just come out of nowhere, and I was like, fuck, I'm in this spot. Like, this is because it needed a little chip. Like, they were doubling up too much to get into it. It had this tiny little chip, swung on it, just boom, 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 and made the drop. Fins fell out, come around, and just I got one of the best paddle barrel waves I've ever had in my life. And came out doggy doored, and I just looked at Harrow and I just went, yes. And I knew that I was like, man, that's Makala up there. He sent me that one because
Oh.
he probably wanted me to go through a little bit of pain to earn it. You know, and so I went over to Harrow and I went, that'll do me, bro. Like I'd had a bunch. I probably had like
Yeah.
10 really fun waves. And I was like, that'll do us, man. We're done. We're done here. Let's go.
Wow.
Let's like I want to go home safe. And that was some of the heaviest shit ever. And I came in and we got some smaller waves, but I came back then I just was like to my wife and I was like, oh man, that was a really scary feeling on that trip because I was out there by myself all morning for hours going, do I really even want to be out here? What's all this for?
Mm.
Why am I even doing this? Like, is this the thrill of the chase? Like, do I need to try and be a madman? And like, like what do I, and I just had these internal like thoughts going
Right.
through. But I guess that's just the makeup of the people we are. And, you need to go through those little adverse times and have those, internal tussles to keep the progression and keep the hunger
Yeah.
going and the growth, I look at that as a real growth moment for myself where I was like, all right, well, you said you would never come out here anymore because me and McCullough used to like, hey, I can't make it. The kids are sick. Are you still going to go? Yeah, I'm going to go. You sure you want to go, bro? Be careful, man. Like we'd be worried about each other, Don't go, He went to another spot, knocked his head, was out dizzy for a while. He rang me. He goes, fuck, I just got knocked out. I was like, I told you not to go, boys.
Damn.
So I was
Yeah.
like, maybe that was a little slap in the face. Like, I told you not to
Mm.
go by yourself, man. You got to
Mm-hmm.
be out. You got to be out there with someone. So yeah, all these life lessons you could turn into analogies along the way, but
Right.
the thrill of a strike mission still like that fire burns so much
Yeah.
still inside me, and I don't know. I don't think I'll ever stop them. Like maybe
Wow.
I'll calm down and on how shallow the reef is and stuff in another 10 years. It's funny. I was talking to Luke Egan and Dylan Longbottom, and those guys are in their 50s. Like Luke Egan's 58 and he just was surfing chopes. And I was telling him, I was like, man, because, Luke's always like, let us in on a strike mission, Buddha. I'm like, yeah, 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 yeah. And like, I look at some of those older guys, especially like when there's not a whole crew around, when you don't have big safety skis and everything like that, and you're wearing all the puffy vests and stuff like that. But you're going on a little slab mission where it's shallow, there's no floaties, and might just be a couple of you guys. Like the chances of severe injury are pretty high. Look what happened to Dylan in South Australia last year, 2 years ago. Like it's really dangerous. But like, what is it? Like, what is it about? What is it about that we love so much? And I asked Luke Egan, I'm like, has that slowed down? He's like, no. It just made me want to get fitter so I can still be it. I'm like, oh, maybe I've got 10 more years of doing it. He's like, 10? No way, you've got 20 at least. And I'm like, all right, let's go. So it comes down to all the things you preach on your platform, man, like the
Yeah.
paddling, the looking after the temple, like all these little hacks that we can do to keep ourselves out there longer, because like surfing's the greatest thing. I think I'm so stoked to be a surfer, and I think it's the most amazing thing that you can do is to get out there and surf. Like there's nothing that compares to it. So yeah, man, that's about it.
Wow. Wow. That I don't think we can close it any better than that, dude. That
Yeah.
was epic. Thanks for joining. That was such a treat.
Yeah, cheers, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Hell yeah.